This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
One more time, can we make a move? Overthinking, you and I. What do we have to lose? 'Cause I'm wasting all my time thinking of the things we could do. If you gave me one more sign, I could find a way to break through. A way to break through.
MALSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Finally, show with the balls to call it like it is. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Countdown to audio torture.
The Rated R Safety Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Let the eardrum pain begin.
Forget the corporate bullshit. This is the Rated R Safety Show with your host, Dr. It doesn't matter who the host is.
All right, it's something. Yeah, we'll tell you that. It's something for sure. Not sure what it is, but it's we'll call it the Rated R Safety Show. Anyways, today is Tuesday, April the 25th of 2023, day 115th of the year, and only 250 left to go. So what does that mean? That means we haven't even went through a third of this thing yet. I guess that's one way to take a look or a gander at it, depending on how, what side of the house you want to be in. Anyways, we are broadcasting from the Safety FM studios in Orlando, Florida, and coming across the multiverse known as Safety FM. And then we are hanging out with our friends and colleagues at that other place.
Radio Big. USA, Canada, UK.
Oh, yes, hanging out with the people at Radio Big. So there you go. A lot of stuff happening in the last 24 hours. At least it seemed that way as we were hanging and taking a look around at all that stuff. So let's start talking right away about it.
Here is what was trending. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so what's on tap today? Officials at SpaceX examined the aftermath of last week's Starship launch and a spate of the bizarre incident involving the dead cows that have freaked out the locals in the rural Texas area. Most voters don't want to see President Joe Biden run again, but that will not be good news for former President Donald Trump. So there you go. J.K. Rowling's podcast is a hit and big-time changes to 2 major networks. We'll talk about that as we get show busy. What else? Carpool Karaoke will end with Adele. And Co-Chameleon is heading to the big screen. So there you go. Or Co-Chameleon, listen to me. Coco Melon, yes. It's a kid show. If you watch it, it's probably because you have kids. At least I would hope that would be the reason that you have to watch it. And Prince Harry's spot is in the cheap seats for next month's coronation of King Charles. Might not be able to snub after all. So there you go. So a lot of stuff. So let's talk real quick. We talk here on this lovely show about safety in the news and safety. We bring in some professional broadcasters that will tell you exactly what's going on because that's just kind of the way that they jive about things. So just be on the lookout for that. Also, if you want to interact with the show, it's simple process. All you have to do is go to callinradio.com. That's callinradio.com. That will get everything moving and grooving for you as it will set the system up for you to be able to video chat, text message, or just call in, just in regards to being able to do your thing. do your thing. And you can do it from any web browser. Yes, that's any web browser. So there you go. We try to make it as simple as possible. I know some people have had some difficulty with it because they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean I can just do it from a web browser? What's the number? It's not a number. It's not a number. It's not a number. So there you go. So with that being said, safety in the news and safety professional broadcasters come in, do all their thingo. And then we taco a little bit more. Yes, we taco because it's Tuesday. So taco, so anyways, it's going to get me talking about tacos. So that's what happens. Then I come in and give some kind of main story and we go from there. This is hour number 1 of 3 hours. Hours 2 and 3 are not video simulcasted. So just so you know, we do our thing on Radio Big for hour 2 and 3. And the second hour, if you're on Safety FM, you'll get to hang out with Sheldon Primus, Safety Consultant Show. So kind of fun stuff on what you want to do around there. Anyways, with that being said, why don't we get into it and start talking about everything that is going on inside of the world of the news.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
NBC News Radio, I'm Mark Mayfield. President Biden is being coy about plans for a possible 2024 run. Reporters on Monday asked Biden at the White House, why should Americans give you another 4 more years? Stay tuned. Before the stay tuned comment, Biden joked he'd run again so he can answer more reporter questions. This comes as several reports say Biden could release a video as early as today declaring that he's formally jumping into the race. Biden has been huddling with his family and advisors and is reportedly discussing a low-key announcement. Jury selection is set to begin today in a civil rape trial involving former President Trump. The charges were filed in New York by writer E. Jean Carroll, who claims Trump assaulted her in a Manhattan department store dressing room back in the 90s. Trump may have to pay damages if he's found liable. The trial is expected to last about 1 week. A Georgia prosecutor says she'll announce whether charges will be filed in the case involving former President Trump and the 2020 election. Brian Shook reports.
Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis said Monday the announcement of decisions in this case may provoke a significant public reaction. Willis has been investigating Trump and his allies for possible election interference since early 2021. The charging decision is expected later this summer. I'm Brian Shook.
The Pentagon is considering multiple options to coordinate the evacuation of American citizens from Sudan. U.S. officials say they could include sending U.S. troops to Port Sudan. Meantime, the Pentagon is sending 2 Navy ships in a standby position near that port. This comes as Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced on Monday a 3-day ceasefire in the African country. Hundreds of people have been killed in the conflict, including 1 American. And jury selection is set to get underway today in New York City in the copyright infringement trial of Ed Sheeran. The British pop star is accused of copying parts of Marvin Gaye's classic song Let's Get It On for his song Thinking Out Loud. Last year, Sheeran won another copyright suit over his song Shape of You. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Safety never sounded so terrible. Rated R Safety Show.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. The UK's announced a large-scale evacuation starting for British passport holders in Sudan. Singapore is set to hang a man for trafficking cannabis despite international criticism. South Korea's leader is in Washington on a state visit with North Korea's nuclear threat high on the agenda. And in the Philippines, around half of all mobile phone SIMs could be cut off in a ban of unregistered SIM cards.
You are listening to something magical. You're listening to the Rated R Safety Show.
President Biden says the 3 Tennessee state lawmakers who recently led gun reform protests are standing up for our kids and our communities. Biden and Vice President Harris met with Representatives Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson in the Oval Office Monday.
We talked about how Tennessee can be a model for the nation. We came as Tennessee lawmakers, but we didn't just come as legislators. We came as voices of moral dissent as to what happened in our state.
Jones, along with Pearson, was expelled by the Republican majority for protesting on the House floor days after a deadly school shooting in Nashville. They have since been reinstated. Biden said what the Republican legislature did was shocking and undemocratic. He said more needs to be done to stop gun violence. A nationwide poll may not be good news for President Biden or former President Trump. The NBC News poll shows a majority of Americans don't want either one to run for the White House in 2024. 70% of those surveyed believe Biden shouldn't run for a second term, with many citing his age as a key factor. As for Trump, 60% of those polled think the former president should not run in 2024. The poll was taken just days before Biden's expected announcement for re-election. Aaron Rodgers is being traded to the New York Jets. Lisa G reports.
The Green Bay Packers and Jets finally agreed to the deal for the 39-year-old to come and play for New York. Rodgers recently said he wanted to play here.
Because I still have that fire and I want to play and I would like to play in New York.
The Jets haven't made the postseason since 2010, the longest streak in the NFL. So Jets fans will see Rodgers in a Jets uniform this season. Lisa G., New York.
And General Motors is recalling more than 40,000 Chevrolet medium-duty trucks due to a problem with the brake pressure sensor that raises the risk of fire. Federal regulators say a faulty assembly could leak brake fluid and cause an electrical short circuit. The recall covers Chevrolet 4500 HD, 5500 HD, and 6500 model trucks from 2019 to 23. GM says it's not aware of any accidents or injuries related to the issue. Mark Mayfield, NBC News Radio.
Listen to our host of the Rated R Safety Show. Self-implode on our airwaves, only on Safety FM.
Let's start using cutting-edge warp speed 5G technology with your cell phone. Let me tell you about my friends at mobile.io. They have an ultra-fast 4G LTE and 5G network that covers 99% of Americans. So they've got you covered everywhere. Think about it for a moment. You have the opportunity to take a test drive for 10 days with unlimited talk, text, and premium data. What is premium data? Premium data is an allotment of a cellular data that you receive from a higher priority on the network. You won't get throttled like you will with some of those, well, non-brand service providers. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to mobile.io. That's mobile.io to start your 10-day free trial.
Hello.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
It's always amazing to me on how technology changes, and so does the environment that we're in. And cyber criminals will do everything they can to take advantage of a system. If you don't own a home, you have nothing to fear about what I'm about to tell you. But if you own a home like me and you don't guard it with home title lock, you're inviting home title fraud. One of the fastest growing crimes. Cyber thieves around the world know our home values are sky high at the moment, and that makes us a target. The crime is scary simple. Let me explain it to you real quick. A cyber thief simply forges your name on a property sale form and refiles it. That's it. Now he or she is on the deed of your home and you have no idea that you're a victim. Then the person takes out a loan on your home and vanishes, leaving you to prove to the police that you didn't commit bank fraud.
Home Title Locks puts a virtual barrier around your home title. The instant they detect any kind of tampering or anybody messing around, they help shut it down. Look, if you have equity in your home, you need to guard it the best way that you can. Some people might even go as far as guarding it with their life. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you already are a victim. And enter the code RADIO. That's RADIO. That's the code RADIO for 30 days free of protection. That's code RADIO at HometitleLock.com.
Safety in a way never heard of before. The Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Okay, there you go. 15 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are hanging and banging and doing all the fun stuff that we get to do around here. Anyway, so last week, SpaceX massive Starship rocket didn't quite make it into space, but after blasting upwards for about over 4 minutes, while the ship didn't escape the Earth's gravity, Elon Musk said that he'd call it a win that the blastoff didn't, obliterate the launch pad during the ignition. So I guess that's kind of a good thing. As SpaceX official assesses what went wrong, they're also inspecting the damage done to the 33 first-stage rocket engines powered by the first time. And it turns out the most powerful rocket ever built leaves more damage behind than expected. The powerful engines left huge craters below its mount and the launch pad and literally shattering the concrete below it. Now SpaceX is installing a giant steel plate cooled by water underneath the next for the next launch, hoping to get some better results. So there you go. Did you watch any of this? Or did you watch some of the stuff online about it? Because it was interesting if you did watch it and take a moment to do so. After the explosion, they clapped. And it was not so much because it exploded. They had clapped because they didn't think it was going to get off the ground. So that's kind of even a more interesting thing to take a look at. Anyways, authorities and ranchers in 3 Texas counties are scratching their heads over the death of 6 cattle who also had their tongues removed, making the death more perplexing. There was no blood near any of the animals or any tracks in the grass. All 6 were found lying on their sides with the exposed side of their face cut out, with the jawline and their tongues removed. 2 of the cows also had their anus and the external genitalia removed, according to authorities. Similar reports came out of Colorado in the past in the past fall, where dozens of cattle were completely slaughtered with no signs left behind by any predator. I wonder what the conspiracy theories are going to be sounding like now.
Safety never sounded so terrible. Rated R Safety Show.
Anyways, 12-year-old Ivy Marie Brustello from Canada has become the world's youngest gold medalist in weightlifting after lifting 264 pounds at the 2023 International Weightlifting Federation World Youth Championship. Oh, and she's only 88 pounds, by the way. Last month, Ivy Marie competed in the IWF World Youth Championship in Albania, where she became the youngest ever world champion in history of the IWF, taking home 3 gold medals. Next up, Ivy Marie is preparing for the USA Youth Championship and the Junior Canadian Championships. She also has her sights on the 2028 Olympic Games. That seems pretty interesting. Can you imagine that? 264 pounds and you weigh 88 pounds. Amazing stuff done by amazing people. Anyways, an Arkansas dad was arrested last week after piercing his teenage son's ears. According to the BPR, 45-year-old Jeremy Sherlin was handcuffed at his home after a resource officer from his son's school called the police regarding the welfare check of the teen. Per the report, the teen was allegedly overheard talking about how his dad was drunk and put him in a chokehold and shoved the piercing into his ear, despite the teen repeatedly stating that he wanted his dad to pierce his ears. The arresting officer said that Arkansas's law states that the artist shall not perform body art on person under the age of 16 of age, regardless of parental consent. Sherlin faces a Class D felony for performing the body art. He also faces charges of endangering the welfare of a minor and resisting arrest and obstruction of governmental operation. He was released over the weekend on a bond of $1,500. So hold on. The son got his ears pierced while allegedly the dad was drunk. It doesn't say how old the kid is. It just says that he overheard the teen. They overheard the teen. I mean, it's interesting in regards of how that works. So in Arkansas, you can't get your ears pierced or you can't have anything done for any child under the age of 16. I will tell you, I was recently at a children's hospital, and I'm hanging out in the waiting room because I'm with one of my kids. And there was a kid there that had a tattoo. And this kid was probably 13 at best. At best, they were probably in the 13 years age of range. And nobody seemed to be saying anything about the tattoo. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I like tattoos probably more than the next person. And I was kind of impressed. But it was one of those things that nobody said anything. And I'm just wondering if I live in one of those weird states where you can do things out of the ordinary. I wonder.
Listen at your own risk. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so Bethany Funk, one of the two roommates of the 4 University of Idaho students who were brutally killed last November, has been subpoenaed by the suspect to testify in his defense, according to the court records obtained by the New York Post. Brian Korber attorneys argue that she was informed that could potentially clear the murder charges levied against him. Funk denies having any such information and has filed a motion to dismiss the subpoena. Worth remembering, the only surviving roommate was Dylan Modison, who was the one who allegedly came face-to-face with the murderer the night of the attack. No word whether whether she'll be subpoenaed or not. So there you go. A lot of interesting stuff going on inside of the world. So take a listen to this. Coming from the swamp ahead of the President Joe Biden formal re-election announcement, an NBC News report poll shows that 70% of Americans, regardless of political affiliation, do not want him to run for a second term. The vast majority of those respondents say that Biden's age is a major reason why. The same poll shows that 41% of Americans are planning to vote for Biden, while 47% will back whoever the Republican nominee is, unless that Republican is former President Donald Trump. Biden beats Trump favorably 38% to 34%, neither of which is a strong number for either candidate. This is according to NBC. So if we're already talking about this, how do you see this election season going? Because that's what's going to happen next. Boy, is it going to be a long one once again. Anyways, with that being said, let's bring some joy into your life. Let's bring in some John Smalls and let him tell you about what the hell's going on in the market.
Here's your Market Beat Minute for Tuesday, April 25th, brought to you by GenesisGoldIRA.com. Equity markets were treading water Monday as investors weighed a fresh round of earnings reports and prepared for another inflation report. On the earnings front, reports continue to come in better than expected, but instead of pointing to a solid rebound in the second half, inflationary pressures persist and volume declines are taking a toll on the outlook. If this trend continues, it is likely the S&P 500 will move lower by the end of the reporting season, but it's still early in the cycle. The PCE price index is due out Friday. This is the latest read on inflation before the next FOMC meeting and will set the tone for the upcoming decision. If inflation shows cooling, the FOMC may be able to hike once more and then pause to wait and see what happens. If not, the Fed may be forced to hike more than expected, and there's still oil prices to consider. The price of oil is expected to move higher due to OPEC's production cuts, and that may reinvigorate inflation. You can get the inside track at marketbeatminute.com.
Okay, thank you, John Smalls, for the information right there, because, hey, if you're not keeping us in the loop, who is? Anyways, the Dow added about 66 points to close at 33,875 on Monday. The S&P added about 3 points to close at 4,137, and the NASDAQ lost about 35 points to close at 12,037. West Texas Intermediate closed at $78 a barrel, and Brent crude was about at $82. The national average price of a gallon of gas was $3.67. Bitcoin slid about 0.75 on Monday, trading just shy of $27,400. There was more than 2,980 flights delayed within, into, and out of the United States on Monday. with about 71 such cancellations. Tonight, Mega Million drawing will be for $26 million jackpot or a $13.7 million cash payout. So let's talk about this because this was the news story that was making it all the rounds yesterday. It was everywhere. Apparently, after our show was over, after our 3 hours was over, it seemed like it was going everywhere. But Fox News abruptly fired primetime star Tucker Carlson on Monday morning. Media reports that Carlson and most employees at the network were blindsided by the news. No word yet on particulars on what's next for Carlson. We're noting last week Fox News agreed to paying nearly $800 million to Dominion Voting Systems in a defamation settlement. There were plenty of speculation that someone significant had to roll, and the Washington Post reports that text messages between Carlson and colleagues subpoenas as part of the suit had to do with the firing. In particular, Carlson questioned the network's decision to call the 2020 election for Biden. This is according to the Washington Post. Bad blood former Fox News host Megyn Kelly defended Carlson's on Twitter, writing, good for Tucker. Trust me, he doesn't need them. Remember, Kelly left FNC shortly after the election of former President Donald Trump and had a brief stint at NBC before the network paid out her contract. And she stated that she started her own podcast, which can now be heard on SiriusXM, which now she has her own little gig on SiriusXM. Good for her. Meanwhile, at CNN, controversial host Don Lemon was axed on Monday. Earlier this year, Lemon has moved from prime time to the morning hosting slot, where the conflict abundant between him and the female colleague. So there you go. A lot of stuff going on over there to talk about. So there you go. Anyways, let's talk about some other things. An animal rights group has raised a large sum of a reward money to show how much dogs' lives are worth. Phil Farrell says the small animals has left in the cold overnight temperatures with nowhere to go. This is coming out of Escondido, California. We'll talk about that because why would we not talk about some things that are coming out of Escondido, California? Matter of fact, we're not going to talk about it because apparently we don't have the wire for it. The wire hasn't went down. I love how these news stories are showing up and then vanishing. Anyways, take a listen to this. President Biden says that there are 3 Tennessee lawmakers who recently led the gun reform protests are standing up for our kids in our communities. Biden says that Biden and Vice President Harris met with Representative Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson at the Oval Office on Monday.
We talked about how Tennessee can be a model for the nation. We came as Tennessee lawmakers, but we didn't just come as legislators. We came as voices of moral dissent as to what happened in our state.
So Jones, with Pearson, was expelled for Republican majority for protesting on the House floor days after the deadly shooting in Nashville. They have since then been reinstated. Biden said that the Republican legislature did what was a shocking, undemocratic thing. He said that there needs to be more done to stop gun violence. So there you go. Some stuff going on right there as we are talking. Talking about gun violence, take a listen to this. Cody's high school teacher, William Howard of Southfield, is being charged with bringing a handgun to school. This is coming out of Detroit. This woman was shocked to learn what happened.
You're supposed to set an example for these children, and that's not setting a good example.
The 57-year-old was arraigned on Saturday after the incident happened on Wednesday when he was in school hallway. Howard has been charged with carrying a concealed weapon and possession of a weapon in a weapon-free school zone, and he is due in court on May the 1st. The parents at Cody High School think that Williams Howard made a mistake by bringing the gun to the school.
I just think it was an isolated incident. I don't think it had anything to do with the students here. I don't think it had anything to do with him being a teacher here.
I mean, how did this, a couple of questions here. Number one, how'd you end up with a gun? I'm sure you did it the right way based on what it sounds like. But when you ended up bringing it to the school, how did other people find out that it was there? Because something had to occur. That's just not something that people find out and you go, oh yeah, that did happen. Amazing grace. How great the sound. Let's keep it in Detroit for a moment. Police are working to identify suspects in the murder of the 53-year-old Dr. Devon Hoover. His home in Detroit's Boston Edison Historic District. The neighbors who wanted to to remain anonymous, says that Hoover's death is a shock.
Devon has been in this area for a very long time, and a lot of people know Devon. He's hosted so many things for people to come by.
Devon, the neurosurgeon, whose body was found on Sunday as authorities were doing a welfare check. Police have not condemned or commented on how he was killed. The woman was a neighbor of Dr. Devon Hoover, who was found the murder on Sunday. Take a listen to this.
This should happen to no one who was just minding their own. This guy was a worker bee.
How do we, by the way, isn't even saying that there were the neighbor, isn't that a lot of information? It seems that way. I mean, it definitely seems like you've said a lot there in regards of what what's going on inside of the información right there. So take a listen to this. Another week of intense rainstorms across South Florida means more pesky mosquitoes. Stella Diaz with Truly Nolan Pest Control says be smart and remove all standing water. Take a listen.
Anything that has sitting water is perfect environment for the larva of the mosquito. And then, obviously 24 hours later, you're going to have swarming mosquitoes all over the place.
The larva of the mosquito. She says that you should also trim your trees, avoid going out at dusk and dawn, and wear a long sleeve. Skeeter says that year-round in Florida must be intense during the rainy season, which usually doesn't start until, at the end of May. Let's see. She says this year it seems that they're getting started early because of the recent rain that it is taking place out there.
Because normally right now, mosquitoes should not be as bad as they are. And right now, mosquitoes in South Florida are very, very, very bad.
So there you go. She's calling them skeeter eaters. So there you go. I don't know. Some interesting stuff always going on around here. So let's talk and get into it because it is 32 minutes past the top of the hour.
Here is our main story on the Rated R Safety Show.
We come up with main stories and we talk about things that are going on and we take a look around at what is happening inside of the world. We talk about what is going on inside of being informed of what is happening within our, we'll say our little scope of stuff. And I will tell you, there's so many things that come to mind as you and I sit back and talk sometimes, especially when we get to our main story. Because I could sit here and talk about, this whole thing where people feel that they have to have every letter behind their name because it still seems to be a giant thing to talk about. We can talk about these broad strokes of people repurposing stuff. And we're, repurposing stuff in regards of what is going on and taking stuff that has been done before and repackaging it as something else. Or we can talk about niching down. And I really think that maybe the niching down thing seems to have more of an impact than what you think. And when I say niching down, what do I mean? Well, let's talk about this real quick, because you see that there's some things that happen out there, that there are people that you can go to and talk about what the hell's going on inside of the world, and they'll give you these broad strokes of array of shit that's out there to do, opposed to actually going specific to one particular niche. And if I can say it, I can probably say micro niching might be the other thing, and I said niching with an N just in case. So what if you focused on one thing? And some people might go, what? What do you mean focus on one thing? I'm talking about the whole aspect of being really good at one portion. So imagine if you practice something time and time and time again. Remember, you're considered a subject matter expert if you've done something 10,000 times. So if you take a look at that for a moment, and you use that as the emphasis, you use that as the focus, imagine focusing on something that's related to what you do work-wise as doing it 10,000 times in a row, and how you can actually share so much information with people about that. Now, I take a look at this and go, What if you wanted to be a jack of all trades and have knowledge about a whole bunch of different things? That's a possibility too, but it's a little bit more difficult of a scope to be able to share information. Think about this. And I want you to use this as an example. Think about people that you work with if you're not going out there and doing like consulting work and something along those lines. About people that you work with that people will tell you, you need to talk to X person because they're really good at doing X. So put X. So person X is really good at doing X. So you should talk to them because of how good they are in regards of doing it. And that person is considered a subject matter expert. Now imagine if you focused on that. Not on the person. I'm talking about being a subject matter expert on X because you've done this over 10,000 times. How good would that be for your organization? How good would that be for you actually going out there and doing work? Here's the thing. We get so hung up sometimes on what other people are doing that we want to imitate and mimic. Imitate and mimic, opposed to actually going out there and being our own selves. Think about this real quick. Yes, somebody might be out there doing great work. They might have great examples of what the things that they are doing. You do not need to be them. You need to be the first you. Yes, I know it's difficult, but if you take what you are focusing on and you use that in your niche, look how great that would be. I will tell you, a few days ago, I'm watching this thing where this guy is winning an award. And the award that the person won was great. But 70% of the conversation that the guy was having about winning the award and all the focus that he's been putting on his work, the speech was 70% of somebody else's speech. And I was very confused. It was like, so this guy just won an award, but 70% of what he just said has been said by somebody else, almost word for word, and he's taking it and running it as if it's his own thing. So don't do that. Niche down and do what's important to you. Focus on what you want to focus on. Seriously. Imagine how much further you'll get into doing things if you do micro niching. Micro niching. Maybe that's a term, to lock into spot right there. Might be something that might be worth talking about in the long run. Think about it for a moment.
Oops! What did he just say?
We at Safety FM don't always agree with the viewpoints of our hosts and guests.
Now back to real safety talk on Safety FM.
This portion of the show has been sponsored by Private Internet Access, America's #1 virtual private network, or VPN. Even if you use incognito mode, internet service providers is storing your browser data and many times even selling it. But Private Internet Access, or PIA, can help you. PIA encrypts and reroutes your internet traffic through one of its own servers, hiding your data from your internet service provider or network admin. And with servers in over 75 countries, you can get unrestricted access to geo-blocked content from around the world. PIA comes with easy-to-use apps and browsers extension for all devices, a rock-solid privacy policy, open source security, advanced customization settings, and it was just ranked the fastest VPN in the world by PC Magazine. And if you sign up right now with PIA, you can take advantage of a special deal only for Safety FM listeners. Only by using the following link, you can get the digital privacy for less than $2 a month. Yes, you did hear me correctly, less than $2 a month, and an extra 4 months for free. So that means for only $1.98 a month and 83% off, you can get this service for you right now. That's so much more inexpensive than virtually every other VPN on the market. And if you get it right now, you can take PIA's 30-day risk-free challenge. You can try it out for 30 days, see if you like it, and if not, just return it for a full refund. So just go to safetyfm.com/VPN. That's safetyfm.com/VPN to try out the best VPN on the planet completely risk-free. Now remember, safetyfm.com/VPN.
Okay, men, this is your time.
Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're going to go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you going to do? You're going to go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. Got to dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Is your safety training old, stale, and hacky? Safety trainers still training a warped version. How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call Jim Polzel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces.
Overthinking, you and I, what do we have to lose? 'Cause I'm wasting all my time thinking of the things we could do. If you gave me one more sign, I could find a way to break through, a way to break through.
Oh, there you go. Rated R Safety Show. Hour number 1 of the Jay Allen in the Morning Show. 43 minutes in. That's a way to break through, really called Breakthrough by Lucha. Songs readily available on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube Music. Why are we going brand specific? I never know. We would like to thank Lucha for allowing us to play this here on the Rated R Safety Show.
If you gave me one more sign, I could find a way to break through.
You know, we get into this electronica stuff and I can't stop it. Yeah, breakthrough. So there you go. So let's get into it. Let's start talking. Let's start moving. Let's start grooving. Doing all the funner stuff that we need to do around here because, hey, there's a lot of stuff still going on. We got 16 minutes left on this hour. Just, ballpark there. But let me tell you about the most important thing that I'm going to tell you in my lifetime. Oh, yes. Let me tell you about my friends at To Write Love on Her Arms. If you go to their website at twloha.com, they can help you with all the resources that they have. No matter what you're facing, you deserve to be connected to help. We want to let you know that there are people that have been where you are now, and this can get better. All you have to do is go to twloha.com, click on the section that says Find Help. They will tell you about scholarships for treatments that are available and recovery scholarship. There's view on mental health resources outside of the United States and for inside of the United States. So you have some options right there. All kinds of phone numbers. If you just know that you're not alone. If you are in the U.S. or Canada, you can text the word TWLOHA to 741-741. If you are in the UK, text the word shout to 85258. If you're in Ireland, text the word home to 50808. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, you can call or text 988, and there's all kinds of stuff that's available. All you have to go is to TWLOHA.com to write Love on Her Arms and click on the section that says Find Help. Listen, this might be the most important information that I ever get to share with you, and that's about the world of mental health. Keep in mind that there is someone available 24 hours a day on their helplines. 24 hours a day. This can deal with addiction, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, self-injury, suicide, trauma, grief support, resources. So, there's just a little bit of everything right there. To write Love on Her Arms, TWLOHA.com. Let's get into some more news because there's all kinds of stuff that is going on inside of the world of the multiverse. So let's talk about it. So what was the most intense moment of your life so far? The survey results are, and according to a poll of 2,000 people in the UK, life's most intense moments include getting married, meeting a celebrity crush, and watching a team play a make or break match. Respondents said that with their experience, on average, 11 of these situations each year. And others that ranked high on the list include moving, going through a breakup, getting a promotion, other nail-biting experiences, buying property, getting a pet, falling over in public, sending a message to the wrong group chat. 57% said that they enjoyed these moments, and 8% said that they don't. By the way, 14 on the list, watching a sex scene in a TV show / film with your parents or children. Yeah, that could be a little bit awkward. I don't know if it's an intense moment, but it's probably an awkward moment. Okay, that last one, well, that's pretty intense to some. Oh, and did none of the people have children? So, I don't know. Just some stuff to talk about. Let's talk about some tech talk real quick. New research shows that TikTok has both positive and negative impacts on users' mental health. A study from the University of Minnesota says that the platform provides a sense of community and self-discovery, but also repeatedly exposes users to harmful content. TikTok is run by recommendations system displayed for your page instead of showing users posts from other accounts that they follow. While the personalized approach is helpful for some users to find a positive content about mental health and avoid the feeling of loneliness, it can also lead to users down a rabbit hole, according to researchers, and then it can be being proved harmful and distressing and triggering. Also triggering when I discovered that my kids is still up watching videos at 3 a.m. So there you go. You may already have heard of this, but it's definitely worth mentioning again because how often does Mark Zuckerberg hand out money? A massive $725 million settlement involving Facebook's parent company Meta was tentatively approved by the judge last month, paving for users and the social media platform in the U.S. to apply a chunk of the payout. Meta has agreed for payments to settle a class action lawsuit that claiming that allowed users' personal data to be shared with a third party, harvesting of data of 87 million pages. Facebook has until August to make claims online or via snail mail, and then you get your money. Be sure to post about it, so because I'm sure that people will be extremely excited if you do that. So there you go. So a lot of stuff going on right there as we are talking. But let me make sure that I tell you this: if you currently have a Facebook account, you do not need to answer any of the questions proceeding. If you are on Facebook user at any time between May the 24th, 2007 to December 22nd of 2022, but have since deleted your account, provide the date range of your user of being a user. So there you go, some stuff going on right there. I have friends that always believe everything that they see on Facebook, so maybe they'll be good people to send some of this information to, because it always makes it a good time. as we are talking. Anyways, with that being said, why don't we do something a little bit more positive, and let's bring in some John Smalls and let him tell you about what is going on in the Motivation Minute.
The Motivation Minute is courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. Today's quote was submitted by Greg. There's a great anonymous quote that says, "If God puts a Goliath in front of you, he must believe there's a David inside of you." I love this quote. Greg shares so many great quotes, by the way. I appreciate them. Have you ever been up against a giant problem? What was your Goliath? We had one a few years ago. It turned into a 3.5-year legal battle against a guy with far more resources than we had. But it ended with a 4-day jury trial, and it only took the jury a few minutes to find in our favor. Along the way, we struggled. It was not fun. But in the end, we were victorious against our big fat giant. This has been today's Motivation Minute, courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. They're known for insurance quotes. I'm John Small. Thanks for listening. Your favorite motivational quotes can be submitted for upcoming programs at motivationminute.org.
Your Wellness Minute is brought to you by alessamorgan.com. How often do you take a multivitamin? People who regularly take a multivitamin for at least 20 years have a significant decrease, up to 50%, in cardiovascular episodes, even when adjusting for physical activity, age, smoking status, BMI, family history, and vegetable intake. Micronutrient deficiencies and insufficiencies are widespread. In the US, 38% of adults don't get enough vitamin A from food, 43% don't get enough vitamin C, 75% vitamin E, 44% of calcium, and 48% have inadequate magnesium intake. Vitamin D deficiency is also widespread, but the major source of vitamin D is from the sun, with very little found in foods. For more information on wellness, check out alessamorgan.com.
Listen at your own risk. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so there you go. 52 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are still doing our thing here. Because what else would we be doing, of course? So let's continue talking a little bit more because TikTok, baby, we're almost out of time. That's kind of the way that it always goes around here. So take a listen to this. Nearly 6 million people have listened to the witch trials of J.K. Rowling podcast since its debut 2 months ago. The podcast was created on the premise of examining some of the most contentious conflicts of our time through the life and career of the world's most successful author, according to producer Andy Mills. It also explores the controversy surrounding Rowling's tweets about gender and trans issues. This is according to Bloomberg. So there you go. A lot of stuff going on right there. Anyways, what else do we have going on? Let's take a looky around here. And let's see. Let's talk about some things that happened back on this date because that might be important. As I take a look, in 2019, Microsoft becomes the third U.S. company to hit the market value worth $1 trillion. The other two are Apple and Amazon. That happened back on this date in 2019. If you're looking at some birthdays for today, Sam Fender and Maggie Rogers turned 29. Raphael Varane turns 30. Sarah Paxton turns 35. Jonathan Bailey, 35. Jay Park, 36. John DeLuca, 37. Daniel Sherman, 37, Tim Duncan, 47, Jason Lee, yes, the actor, and, he was a world-famous skateboarder before that. He turns 53 today. Renee Zellweger, 54. Hank Azaria turns 59. Adam Silver, 61. Krista Johnson turns 65. And Al Pacino, he turns 83 today, so just in case. If you are looking at some days of the year to celebrate, I have some of those for you. It's National Telephone Day, National Lingerie Day, hey now, National Hug a Plumber Day, World Malaria Day, National DNA Day, World Penguin Day, National Zucchini Bread Day, National Financial Awareness Day. So there you go. There are some days that you can celebrate if you're into the celebrating thing to do, because that's what it seems to do. Anyways, did you know NYU scientists say that they have disclosed what makes hair go gray as we age, an essential step into finding a way to stop and reverse the process? A new study published by the Nature suggests that hair may go gray due to stem cell glitching out and becoming stuck. When this happens, hair cannot mature and thus cannot maintain its color. How about this? Because my hair is no longer maturing, I'm starting to look more mature. Who am I kidding? There's nothing about me that makes me look mature. So there you go. Some stuff to think about as we are talking. I mean, your hair is maturing. I haven't seen my hair in God knows how long. Seriously, as I say that. Let's talk about some whack facts real quick. The first ever oranges were grown in South Asia were green, just so you know. Although getting a single tattoo can temporarily weaken your immune system, receiving several tattoos over time can strengthen it. Seriously. Chicago's nickname, the Windy City, has nothing to do with the weather. It was coined by journalists who felt that the residents were windbags and full of hot air. The phrase head over heels was originally heels over head, which makes more sense literally. No, think about it. Makes more sense literally. Think about that for a moment. You might get it. The dark side of the moon is actually turquoise. Smartphone maker Samsung created a robot shaped like a butt to sit on their phones, testing that they could take the pressure, and the robot even wears jeans. And this is not a joke. You can look this up. You can look all of this up just in case if you wanted to. Anyways, some scoops of BS for you. A website that just ranked the top 10 revenge songs of all time. It's formerly known as Taylor Swift's Greatest Hits. This Friday is Arbor Day, so I guess I'm spending it with people with Arbor Day cars. Kind of defeats the purpose. Just throwing that out there. A new study claims that the best way to get a song out of your head is to chew gum. But what if the tune in your head has double-bent jingle? Just saying. Ripley, believe it or not, says that the myth that humans only use 10% of their brain unless they're a Kardashian. And of the 8 billion people on Earth, 2.5 of them lack toilets. Yes, that's not a joke. Wait, so what are they cling on while they're promising God that they'll never drink again? I mean, I'm just asking the question because those are things to talk about. They're serious questions. They're always serious questions. Anyways, if you need a random joke for today, try this one. I do not have my ducks in a row. I have squirrels, and they are all at a rave. Just throwing that out there. If you need a phone starter for today, try this. What item is still incredibly cheap and you would pay more money for it if you had to? If you need a question for the water cooler, try this. A survey asks what superpower people wish they could have. Number 2 was the ability to fly. What was number 1? Invisibility. That was the number 1 superpower that they would want. Why would you want to be invisible? I mean, invincibility could possibly be a thing, but invisible, I guess that's one of those things to think about. Anyways, that's going to sum up our time for this first hour. If you want to go into hour number 2 and hour number 3, you can go over to radiobig.fm, or you can go to the iHeart Radio app and look for Radio Big, or you can go to TuneIn Radio and do that, or you can go to your Alexa skill and ask for Radio Big. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to do this. If not, you can just hang out here and take a listen to the Sheldon Primus show about the world of safety consulting, because he does that directly at the 8 o'clock hour here on Safety FM, just so you know. Anyway, so thank you for being the best part of Safety FM and Radio Big, and that is the listener, because without you, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do what we do around here. If I can leave you with a deep thought for today, I would love to leave you with this. If the wind will not serve, take its oars. Think about that for a second, because it will take you to places that you've never been before. Anyways, that's going to sum it up. I know who you are.
Duh.
You know who I am. Love you, mean it, and goodbye.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen. 'Cause I'm wasted.